Have you ever stopped in the middle of your day and asked yourself why so many people work hard their entire lives, yet never seem to escape financial struggle, as if some invisible trap keeps pulling them back no matter how much effort they put in, while others, sometimes less talented, less educated, or even less disciplined, quietly rise into stability, security, and eventually wealth? The truth is that poverty in most modern societies isn't only about not having enough money. It is about practicing habits that look harmless on the surface, but secretly chain you to a cycle of financial limitation. And these habits are often so deeply ingrained in our daily routines that we don't even recognize them as the silent barriers blocking our path to freedom. The first of these habits is the habit of confusing activity with progress, where people keep themselves constantly busy, scrolling through endless financial hacks, trying side hustles without focus, or chasing short-term gratification, believing that doing something automatically means moving forward. But in reality, they are simply running on a treadmill that burns their energy without carrying them anywhere. And this subtle trap keeps them poor because money responds not to scattered action, but to consistent, intentional direction. The second habit that silently eats away at financial growth is emotional spending disguised as rewarding yourself, where you convince yourself that buying a little treat, upgrading your lifestyle every time you get a raise, or celebrating every stressful day with a purchase is harmless. But over time, these small leaks sink the entire ship, because money doesn't vanish in giant crashes for most people. It disappears in tiny drips that eventually leave the bucket empty, and those who fail to recognize this pattern find themselves broke even after earning more than enough. The third habit is avoiding uncomfortable conversations about money, where people choose silence over strategy, refusing to negotiate salaries, staying quiet when financial opportunities arise, or avoiding honest discussions with partners about expenses. And this avoidance is not just a social problem, it is a wealth problem, because money flows toward clarity, and by staying silent, you are unknowingly handing over opportunities to those who are bold enough to speak up. The fourth hidden habit is outsourcing your financial thinking to other people. Whether it's blindly trusting a friend's investment advice, copying what your neighbors buy, or relying on the bank to decide what loan works best for you. Because when you give away your financial decision-making power, you are essentially handing over the keys to your future. And the people you trust are often incentivized to serve themselves, not you, which keeps you locked in a system that profits from your lack of knowledge. The fifth destructive habit is living in the someday mindset, where you convince yourself that you will start saving, investing, or building that business when things finally settle down. When you make more money, when the economy improves, or when you're older. But the problem with someday is that it never arrives. Life will always present challenges, and the people who escape poverty are not those who wait for perfect conditions, but those who act in imperfect ones, stacking small bricks of progress even when the storm is raging around them. The sixth habit is measuring wealth only by how much you earn instead of how much you keep and grow. Because our society conditions us to brag about salaries and flashy incomes. But what matters is not how high the number on your paycheck climbs. It's how much of that number you are able to protect, multiply, and redirect into assets that work for you while you sleep. People who fail to understand this keep chasing bigger incomes while still drowning in debt and lifestyle inflation, never realizing they are on a hamster wheel that never ends. And finally, the seventh habit is the subtle addiction to financial comfort zones, where people cling to old patterns, resist learning new financial skills, avoid risk, and convince themselves that staying safe is the smartest move. But in reality, true safety lies in growth, adaptability, and expanding your capabilities. By avoiding discomfort, you avoid opportunities. And in a world where money constantly shifts and evolves, refusing to grow is the fastest way to remain stuck. When you look closely, these 7 habits don't feel like dangerous mistakes in the moment. They feel normal, they feel justified, and they even feel responsible at times. But collectively, they create the invisible cage that keeps millions of people poor without ever realizing why their efforts aren't working. The key isn't to beat yourself up for falling into these patterns. The key is to shine a light on them, Recognize where they are hiding in your life and deliberately replace them with habits that move you toward freedom. Because once you break free from these invisible chains, you'll notice something powerful. Wealth was never about extraordinary intelligence, luck, or talent. It was always about small, intentional shifts in behavior that compound over time. And as you listen to this and reflect, ask yourself this: which of these 7 silent habits has been living in your own financial life? And what would your future look like if you decided, starting today, to break that pattern and step onto the path of freedom instead of staying trapped in the cycle that quietly holds most people back?